Welcome to the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner. This week on the Royal Corner, Prince Harry loses legal battle as Ravek committee is above the law, and BBC interview reveals true motivations behind the withdrawal of his security. Also on the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner, King Charles, the side salad, the leeches in waiting, green-eyed King and indolent Kate, bore onlookers in stale VE 80th celebrations. Also on the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner, Duchess of Sussex releases beautiful picture of son Archie, as well as family photo of Prince Harry, showing, irrespective of what happens, love always wins. And there's this week's Sycophant of the Week, as well as commemoration portraits of the coronation. King Charles looking like Cabbage Patch toddler, while Plan B Queen filter painting outshone his. All this and more on the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner. Before I jump into this week's show, I want to thank all the listeners who have been coming back and looking at my content. I now have 1,882 subscribers. This is a major milestone, and it encourages me because the Royal Corner is part of my weekly Friday night political live talk show called The Headley Highlight Show. The Headley Highlight Show airs on X every Friday at 8 p.m. GMT, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I discuss the matters of the day, giving you my thoughts and musings. And of course, the Royal Corner is a feature. You can support this channel and me by doing a number of things. One, you can come and join my show on a Friday night live and contribute. Or you can like, share and retweet my content. Or you can jump up into my YouTube and become a subscriber. I'm trying to get to 1,500 subscribers, and then after that, I want to get to 2,000. Or you can jump over to my YouTube and catch all of my my website, which is deniseheadley.com, and you can catch all of my show over there, and also you can make a donation. I am partial to 3 Wings and Chips and a Miranda. I'm also partial to rice and peas chicken ackee and saltfish, jerk chicken stew scabeche fish, carrot cake and a bigger to wash it all down, please. Thank you so much. So now we've done all of that, let's jump into this week's show. Right. So the first story I want to cover this week in the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner is Harry's Ravek loss. But I regard it as a Sussex legacy win. And I'll tell you why it's a Sussex legacy win. Because he won the PR battle. And the BBC interview that followed showed the true motivations of the withdrawal of his security. It showed that the only reason his security was withdrawn is because if he did not stay in the royal household under their influence and jurisdiction, they would use security as a lever to manipulate, coerce, force, compel and corral the couple to remain in the fold, or they would purposely, willfully, with intention and a glad heart put their lives at risk. And this, my friends, community is the reason that Harry won. He didn't win the security question, but you know what he did? He revealed to the world the people who purport to be his family. And I am somewhat presumptuous in that statement because, as my mom says, teeth and tongue must bite because it's in the same mouth. However, you don't choose your family. Them and neighbors, you never choose them and you have to live with them. But it just goes to show the lack of humanity that is present in that institution, using the representatives that they have and knowing the full implications of the decisions that they are going to make. And it's seismic. And if you've watched the interview and you've watched Harry's face, you can see the pain on his face, the sadness of the things he learned. But my mum always says, once again, knowledge is power. But once you get that knowledge, it can be painful. And you can see that pain. So let's jump all over this interview, the situation, and I'm going to give you more of my thoughts on it. Harry's masterstroke was that straight after the result, he went on to the BBC. He must have been emotionally raw at the time. And while the BBC, in my opinion, is a sycophant of the establishment, it still has its uses. And on this situation, it was promulgating the words of Prince Harry, and more people probably watched that than tuned in to any conversation about the actual case itself. So once again, that was a PR win for Harry, as I said, and it leads on to why he is the true inheritor of his mum's legacy. And I'm going to come back to that in a bit. The importance of the interview was that it showed there was a huge amount of royal interference in the decision to remove Harry's security. Harry spoke about and revealed the inner workings, the operations of this institution and how they operate. They have representatives on the committee who influence the decisions. And what Harry revealed in the interview was the way in which the committee operated. Their first port of call was the palace. Despite the fact that this committee was an expert body, and this is the importance of Harry's position as revealing all of this information, despite that, the royal household has a large representative, influential role on the committee. And every time Harry comes to the UK, his application, for want of a better word, goes there and they decide what the level of security will be. And since 2020, which came out in the interview and also in the disclosure, Harry revealed that there'd been no proper risk assessment. Despite the fact that he had been deemed as the most high-risk royal on previous occasions. And when the discovery drilled down into the reasons, it was shown that there was a special arrangement made for Harry. There you go, people. We know that. If you're black and melanated, you know what special treatment is? Harry got special treatment. The special treatment was he is not allowed to get security unless he is coming via an invitation from the House of Windsor, from the King, from the Crown. So what about all the rest of his life? Think about the thinking of a father who then says, I will remove your safety from you if you leave my house. And you wonder why he looks like he looks and he ain't going to make 2 more summers after this royal corner. Because you're bad-minded. And when you're bad-minded, it shows on your face, it manifests in your body, and it creates a particular life experience for you. What the interview also revealed was that the committee has absolutely no jurisdiction in law. The High Court had no jurisdiction over it. But that was only revealed once all the procedures had come to light. And that just goes to show you just how backward we are in the UK. We have a backward system built on nepotism, patriarchy, influence and entitlement. It's got, as well as a feudalist mindset. The serfs, the little people, they don't need to know what happens. And because Harry is using the legal space to highlight the reasons why I'm being treated differently, it's now coming out into the public sphere. And this is the reason why he's winning the legacy battle, which is that legacy image of his mum and how she was viewed by the wider public. All of these dealings are showing Harry's character. They're showing who the true statesperson is, the true statesman. They're showing who the true king is. The person who actually cares about other people. Doesn't just do it for a performance, but actually means it. And this is the reason why Harry is successful in creating a much better, real and unique image of how he is, irrespective of what happens. Irrespective of what the British press try to peddle. What Harry's interview showed was the fallacy of the system. It showed a petty father and an even pettier son using the levers of the establishment to crush their own brother and crush him in public. To put the life of him, his wife, and his children in danger. demonstrates how this institution has survived for all this time because it's callous. It will kill and crush anyone who stands in its way. It will pulverize and mobilize all of the machinations in its power so you become a pariah, and then you will be disposed of quietly. But it's not working for the Sussexes, and it's having a boomerang effect on the firm. How can you, King Charles, rock up to the Commonwealth? And this is the legacy point I'm making. How can you rock up to the Commonwealth and ask the Commonwealth to unite behind you in unity after you treat your own blood like that? Harry is the legacy of the monarchy. He's the legacy of King Charles. And the legacy of King Charles shows us one version of what most people would see as a good king, a good person, a decent individual. And then you have you and your son, your other son, the green-eyed one, treating their brother like that. It demonstrated the notion of a working royal was also false, because private citizens were entitled to state protection for the rest of their life. For example, Liz Truss, she was the prime minister for a month and she's going to be protected for the rest of her life. That goes to the Ravick committee. And Harry doesn't have any of those things. Most of the royal household have a yearly review. Harry hasn't had one since 2020, knowing full well that there are threats against his life. People are in jail because they were calling Harry a race traitor. And still you deny your brother, your son, your grandchildren access to proper security. And then you want to wander around the world and be a beacon of the Commonwealth, be a beacon, a statesperson, you and your son. And the example you have set is absolutely woeful. Shame on you, but not surprised by you. That's what I say to King Charles, the leeches in waiting, the side salad, and all the other hangers-on and has-beens. Shame on you. Shame on you, especially the king. You're not a king. You're not a leader. You're a petty little man who has absolutely no forgiveness in his heart. And you ain't got no grace, because if you had grace, you would accept that certain times you have to draw things to a close for peace, for the sake of peace. But what's more important to this establishment is the longevity of it. And they will do anything for it to survive. So like I said a few weeks ago, Harry, don't bring your wife and your kids here. Let them come via Zoom. And if I'm honest, I know it sounds bad, I wouldn't be coming here too regularly either if I was you. Right. Also in the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner, King Charles, the side salad, the leeches in waiting, the green-eyed king to be an indolent Kate, bore onlookers in stale VE Day 80th Day celebrations. Now this article, this second story, is about the VE Day 80th Day celebrations. All across the world, people are celebrating 80 years of the defeat of the Nazis. And once again, we were treated to an exceptionally stale, lacking in imagination, thoroughly boring pageantry of the firm, encrusted in medals. None of them actually ever won. They're all dressed in military regalia. The only one of them that served any time in the military was Harry. And this exercise was curated for us as an exceptionally important moment, solidifying our position and their position with the past. And boy, didn't it show. This exercise of the firm standing on the balcony waving as the premier family of our nation is such a tarnished view. Bar the children, bearing in mind they are part of this legacy arrangement, it just lacked imagination in honouring the whole point of what the exercise was about. They were all dressed in exceptionally dull and tired colours, and it seems like a real relic of the past with no modern significance. And that's not to denigrate the importance of the day and what it actually stood for. But I don't think their presence there, the role that they played, had any major significance to anybody. It's just part of the pomp and ceremony, the pageantry of the exercise. I mean, their own brother, who is a war veteran, let's not forget Prince Harry is a war veteran. He, the treatment a few days ago is just, we're all supposed to forget that and stand there and cheer them on. Isn't this whole exercise about the sacrifice our war heroes made? But that clearly doesn't apply in his case. And another thing that really exercised me in this VE Day celebrations is the amount of times the king got up and was saluting Ukrainian soldiers in the parade. First of all, what are Ukrainian soldiers doing in the VE Day war parade? They have a long history of neo-Nazi involvement. And soldiers who look like me, black melanated soldiers, we've been fighting for recognition. But yet the king has got them walking past and he's standing up. I thought you're not supposed to be a politicized institution. What are you doing that for? So for me, the whole thing was flat. It was like a relic. And even today, when they went to the church service, their presence wasn't notable in any way. Aside from the dress that the indolent queen was wearing, there were a number of articles about it being very Diana-esque. That was the best they could do in terms of making their presence at the church service of any reference or relevance to anybody. Moving along swiftly, darlings, in the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner. Duchess of Sussex releases cute picture of Archie on his 6th birthday, and also a lovely picture of Prince Harry when he returned home after his security was stripped. This week, the Duchess of Sussex shared a new photograph of her son, Prince Archie, to mark his 6th birthday. The picture showed Archie with his back shown with a vibrant orange sunset, and it was captioned, "Our son, S-O-N, our son, S-U-N." And I thought this was a really lovely picture of him. And once again, his face is obscured, which I think is really important because I don't see why they should have to show the children's faces. But this was a lovely backdrop to some of the more negative press that went out this week. And then once again, she also, when Harry came back from the decision of what happened with the Ravik community in the interview, there was a picture of Harry with Lilybeth on his shoulders, and he was also had his hand in Archie's hand, and it was a black and white picture. And I thought that was really a good picture because it showed him in a wholesome way. He was vulnerable, he was a father, he was caring, and all the time, all of the other press about the king and what they were doing to him at this time in relation to the influence they played on that committee, to me was the backdrop. So I thought that was a really cool story, and I wanted to bring that to your attention this week. Oh yes, let me not forget, this week's Sycophant of the Week. So, darlings, this week's Sycophant of the Week goes to the Scottish Daily Express and their writer, Douglas Dickie. This is for you, Douglas. With a name like Douglas Dickie, I would definitely not write articles like this one. So, the Scottish Express writes a rather lobotomized, what can I say, vacillated, empty, hollow article about King Charles's heartbreak on Archie's birthday as forward statement highlights monarchy's love for his grandson. Now, this article is a perfect example of press subjugation, of willful and purposeful deception of oneself with the sole intention of spreading falsehood, fakery, and outright propaganda. That headline by Douglas Dickie would have you believe that Mr. Dickie had the inside track, one, on the king's concern and heartbreak, but also on the fact that the king clearly doesn't have a representative on the Ravik committee, the same committee that removed the security from his own son and his grandson with the view to leaving them in danger, and also then going around and calling every other world leader and security establishment saying, remove it also. Mr. Tricky Douglas Dickie writes, King Charles faces a heartbreaking day as his grandson marks his 6th birthday, thousands of miles away in the USA. Mr. Tricky Douglas Dickie clearly didn't see the BBC interview, where Prince Harry did say he would like a reconciliation, but the king doesn't speak to him. Prince Archie was born on the 6th of May 2019, with his arrival meeting a delight within the royal family. But his parents took Archie away from British relatives less than a year later when they quit royal life and decamped to the USA. Oh my gosh. Listen to the language. So they center the king losing his grandchildren as the reason for your ire. He was robbed, effectively. They took him away from him. And this is supposed to be an article within the framing of the narrative, which now tells you need to feel sorry for the king in light of the fact he can't see his grandson. He's integrally involved in ensuring his grandson doesn't have security. So how can he be heartbroken unless Mr. Tricky Douglas Dickie knows different from the Ravik Committee? Archie remains in the USA with his 3-year-old sister, Princess Lilibet, who was born in 2021. And Harry has ruled out bringing his children to the UK unless the taxpayer is billed for their security, destroying Charles's hopes of building a reunion with the pair. Listen to how they try and formulate that. Do you see that? If you don't read these things critically, these things will just fly over your head. He's now trying to tell you that Harry is trying to leech off the British public, which is the actual role of the establishment and the king. Okay, they leech off the British public. And because he can't do that, the king is robbed of an opportunity. It's not actually, this is what you call narrative formation. They're trying to create a view of the king in a positive light, despite the fact the whole of the week after the interview, he was slapped around, beaten up, pulverized by everybody, because now people can see who he truly is and how he uses his power to harm even his own family. That's why this article was written. It's supposed to soften you and pretend that your retinas, your eyes, your brain, they all have been removed, left in a case at the side, and you're just a vacillated individual sucking this stuff in. He goes on to write that Archie was christened in a private ceremony and that the king's former Clarence House Instagram account had shared a picture of him gazing lovingly at his grandson. This is in this article, these people have written these real words. But it's all different now, Douglas Dickie says. However, with a doting granddad, which part of him is doting Douglas Tricky Dickie, and his grandson stuck in a contention apart, this bond is a pain to King Charles. This article is a pain to anybody who has the misfortune to read it, unlike myself. It was painful. But it's my duty to bring you and highlight sycophants. But it's also my duty to highlight people who outright lie. Like Tricky Dickie, Douglas Dickie. His name is actually Douglas Dickie. I just added the Tricky Dickie bit. So yes, Tricky Dickie, Douglas Dickie from the Scottish Express. This week you get Sycophant of the Week along with your publication. Thank you so much. We wouldn't have been able to do without you. Douglas, to you, thank you so much. And finally, in the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner, commemoration portraits of the coronation have King Charles looking like a Cabbage Patch toddler, something out of the Rugrats, while Plan B Queen filter painting marginally outshines his. On Tuesday, the King and the side salad Queen attended a ceremony for the grand unveiling of their new official royal portraits at the National Gallery. Once again, we see the appearance of the coat dress with Camilla, and the cameras sparkled as they unveiled the portraits, which will be held in the National Gallery and later transferred to their permanent residence at the palace. The king was painted by an artist called Peter Caulfield, and the queen was painted by an artist called Paul S. Benny. And if you've seen the picture of the king, he looks like a Cabbage Patch doll. He looks like the man painted him like Dill from the Rugrats. Honestly, I'm not quite sure what style of painting that is. And it doesn't do him any favors. His face appeared distorted, like he's had collagen put in the wrong places. As for the Plan B queen, she definitely looked like someone had put a filter on that picture. She appears dressed in an adapted shower curtain, with stolen jewels in the shot. So not reading the room, Camilla. In all, I doubt anyone outside of the press corps will be showing any interest in these particular pictures. And that's about it for this week, darlings. So in summary, I chewed all over Harry's case and I said why he won. He didn't win the security question, but he won the PR exercise in showing who was the real king and who was the real statesman. And he also showed that irrespective of what happens, his family, Meghan, the children, love always wins. After that, I chewed all over the VE Day celebrations and how boring and stale it was, and how the leeches in waiting, the side salad and the king seemed like a relic of the past. Then I chewed all over the lovely pictures of Harry and his family that were released. And I finally gave some commentary on the commemoration portraits of the coronation. And I concluded that yes, the king looked like Dill from the Rugrats, and he appeared to have a Cabbage Patch countenance after the painting. So that's it, darlings. I hope you enjoyed it. Do come back next week. Like, share, retweet, leave a comment, and also jump over to my website and make a donation. Very much appreciated. See you next week, and thank you for your listening ear and cut.